Ёбаный в рот. На. На. Короче, нас съебался.
Well, it certainly is a big deal. I think there's been a couple of other drone attacks on this scale, but from what the Russian Ministry of Defense has been talking about, they managed to shoot down all 101 of those drones, and of course they absolutely did. But nevertheless, it is what it is. But 101 is certainly a huge number of kamikaze drones, and particularly focused on Crimea and other part and Krasnodar Krai in Russia itself. So it is certainly a significant attack, let's put it that way. It is oil refineries, but it's also the Belbek aerodrome as well. They did take out, according to Russian Z sources, they did manage to take out a few planes, MiG-29s especially, from what I can understand. But the drone attack was focused also on Topaz, a big oil refinery, one of Russia's top 10. The Ukrainians did take it, or damage it, I should say, for a while ago, and that took it out for a month. So if they can cause damage to it, even for only a month, that would still be significant in terms of Russia's ability to export its oil to places like Malaysia and Taiwan and Singapore, which is where I believe most of the oil goes from Topaz. Certainly the Black Sea is important because it was considered to be, the Black Sea Fleet was considered to be the symbol of the Russian military. The Ukrainians have pushed it out to a great extent from Crimea, and now the Black Sea Fleet's headquarters is still officially Sevastopol, but in reality it's Novorossiysk in Russia itself. So the war in the Black Sea is important, certainly. What can help Ukraine win this war is, as I said before, supplying Ukraine with enough weapons to win this war as quickly as possible, or at least be able to negotiate from a position of strength. Whether Ukraine will be able to push Russia back to its 1992 borders, that remains, at least for now, unlikely, although in the long term it's possible. If Ukraine is able to push Russia back to its 2014 borders, that's a huge achievement. But what needs to happen is that the West supports Ukraine with the weapons and other financial resources to win this war as quickly as possible, or at least to push the Russians back. It's good that Britain has said that it's now okay for Ukraine to fire British-made weapons into Russia. It's better late than never, I would say. The Americans and others are still procrastinating on that. And certainly it's important because Russia's line of reserves and its ability to wage this war comes from Russia. If Ukraine is unable to hit Russian territory or hit the refineries, hit the arms supply dumps and various other things, it becomes that much harder to wage a war when your enemy can keep on moving resources into your country, and only then can you attack.
Vladimir Putin's recently replaced his defense chief. This will be a bit of a humiliating start.
Yes, but I'm sure that they'll find a way. They'll blame Shoigu for this because of the failures of the generals. I think the Z Patriots are going after Gerasimov again because of the failure, certainly, to build hangars for the airplanes. It is embarrassing, but Shoigu is also, whilst he's head of the Security Council, is also focused on the military. So I'm sure they will find a way to blame him because Belousov has only just arrived and he's more focused on the economic side of things, getting the resources necessary for the Russian army, or the Russian military, sorry, to be able to fight a long drawn-out war. Well, this war is important to Putin because it cements his legacy to a great extent. And so he's willing and prepared to kill as many Russian soldiers as possible in order to achieve his aims, whatever those aims are. And they remain the very vague denazification, demilitarization, neutrality for Ukraine. Neutrality is slightly less vague than the other two, but that's by the by. So yes, we'll see what happens with the summer offensive. We'll have to see whether the American equipment that was given to Ukraine, at least the $61 billion that was given to Ukraine, arrives in time. The Ukrainians are just about holding on in Kharkiv and in Donbass at the moment. It is tough, but the Ukrainian army has done amazing things before, and I can imagine will be able to hold the line. So we'll see what happens in terms of the Russian offensive, but I don't expect, I could be wrong, of course, I'm not a military expert, but I don't expect the Russians to make a major breakthrough in the line. I mean, the Russian army has not, for the 2 years of this war, been an army that requires fast movement. It's always been slow, it's been grinding. So we'll have to see what happens in terms of the offensive. They're going to need the long-range missiles. They've needed them for over a year and a half. They've needed the F-16s for over a year and a half. The tanks took too long to come. Various other equipment has taken too long as well. So yes, it's wonderful that the West remains united. The slogan, was always wrong. We'll support Ukraine for as long as it takes. That should never have been the slogan. It should have been, we'll support Ukraine to win this war as quickly as possible. There was the opportunity to do so in 2022 and possibly in 2023. Now it's a long drawn out war, and we'll have to see. What the Western politicians need to do now is to provide Ukraine with whatever resources are necessary. They also need to tell their voters that we are moving to a war economy, that this is existential for the West, and the West has done very well out of the current international order, and we are having to deal with a person who wants to destroy that international order and destroy our way of life. That would be a way to sell it to the voters. Unfortunately, Western politicians don't seem prepared to take that stance at the moment.
Держи. Крий. Сюди давай. Держіться.